So an API call can return 201 created for a FHIR resource, but that resource may actually be completely invalid. This happens in the wild a lot. You may store invalid resources on a FHIR server, and the FHIR server usually just accepts it. In the real world, data is usually inconsistent. It's messy. Like one single FHIR bundle can be thousands of lines of JSON, maybe even more. And FHIR servers actually just accept all of your inconsistent data. So how do you know what FHIR data actually looks like and whether it's valid? In this lesson, I want to give you a practical look at FHIR in the wild, and specifically we'll be looking at the Vanya FHIR Viewer, an app built by Darren Devitt, and we'll just compile all of our lessons that we learned and see what this actually looks like in the real world.
Yeah, so I'm Darren Devitt. I'm a software engineer. I've been a software engineer for about 20 something years. And I've been working with healthcare data for the last 3 years, I would say. And mostly with FHIR, also a little bit of HL7 in there too, and a little bit of DICOM as well.
Darren's first FHIR project was in April 2021 with a US-based health insurer. It was a clinical trial project, and the team learned while they shipped code. Their first impression of FHIR was quite misleading.
This particular case, we were using Azure's managed FHIR server. So to my mind, it looked very much like a database, even though it wasn't, because we were saving data directly into the FHIR instance. It wasn't functioning as a facade. There was no, say, underlying database that we owned that we could see. So to me, it was at first glance, and my first approach to it, it was a very unusual way of storing data. But that, I think, was more down to the way it was set up and the way these managed FHIR servers work. So they're kind of databases, but not databases, which can be very confusing to developers who haven't seen this before.
Although we have seen how to really use FHIR to store and retrieve data, using FHIR as a database can lead to a lot of issues.
Developers tend then to treat that as a real database. So quite often you end up seeing data in there that shouldn't really be in there. So they try and force data that they were put into a regular database into FHIR in some convoluted way, probably using extensions or misusing string fields.
Always.
Yeah.
It's always extensions.
And unlike a SQL database, you really can't explore what is on a FHIR server unless you are using something like Postman, and that is also not the best developer experience.
Yeah, with FHIR, it was Postman, basically. You could run a GET request to get, say, the last 20 questionnaire response resources, and you could find yourself getting back 70,000 lines of JSON. So it's very, very difficult as a developer writing code, testing his code, to look through those 70,000 lines of JSON to find if one value in one resource was updated correctly.
Another problem is that servers don't always enforce conformance.
Most servers that I point this to will have some errors as well. Different errors for different servers. A lot of them are forgiving of cardinality, so they don't always enforce mandatory fields. Some of them, like the Happy server, are forgiving of invalid, say, date fields. So like for a patient date of birth, they'll accept a date time when they shouldn't.
So during some downtime the following year in early 2022, Darren was in southern Spain, and then we came up with an idea for something that would allow him to view FHIR resources more easily. Now that later became Vanya.
I thought, developers need this. We need a quick way to see the data we're working with. It might not be a polished application. It doesn't need to be something you can run intensive queries on production servers on, but something you can run on dev servers or local host servers to help you along, really.
Yeah, so let's take it for a spin. I'm sharing your screen as well right now.
Okay, so the screen you're seeing now is basically the home page, which is a list of servers in the middle. You can see the Happy server that everyone knows, my own localhost server, and the Vanya Labs test server. So on the left, you can see down here in the second half of the screen, the list of all 145 R4 resources in alphabetical order. And above that, you see the recently accessed list of resources. So I put this in because my experience on different projects was that most teams will be working on only a small subset of FHIR resources. They might use 10 or 15 throughout the project and maybe 5 or 6 over the course of a day or a week or a sprint and so on.
So again, Vanya is a very lightweight application that it's a standalone desktop app that connects to any FHIR server, be it AWS Health Lake or Azure or even your own Happy FHIR, and it will show you all the resources that are available on the server.
Let me just click on the encounter resource here. This brings us into the current server, which is the Vanya Labs test server. And what it does is it shows in the grid section here the most recently updated resources in update order. So the very first resource should be the one you just updated if you are writing code and testing code. And I've singled out some of the elements, like 5 or 6 elements that I think are the more significant ones for encounter. And you can click on these. And on the right, you see basically all the data in plain text format. So participants, subject, that's the patient, service provider, the hospital. The type here, which is urgent care clinic, is fleshed out here. That's the codable concept. And also we have a JSON tab, which if this isn't quite good enough for you, you want to drill down into the raw data, you can see it all right here.
So you can, you have different views where you can explore the different resources, and it'll even show you validation errors where a resource might be invalid.
When I'm loading in a page of resources, we're also running conformance checks on R4 to ensure everything is valid. So in this particular case, we have one resource that contains a conformance issue. We should see a little icon next to it. There it is down the bottom. So we click on that. There's quite a lot of errors here, actually. So this particular resource is missing a lot of things. So most of these seem to be cardinality issues. So elements that must be there that are mandatory are not there.
So it makes working with FHIR servers a little bit more manageable, and you have something that's the equivalent of a SQL data viewer in FHIR. For developers, Vanya shortens the feedback loop. You are immediately able to see what's on the FHIR server. You're able to see what you posted, and it's just a little quicker to understand what's going on in the server.
That if you're doing a demo to people who are not technical, showing them Postman and a JSON response, their eyes just glaze over. So Vanya is very useful in that regard, and it's helped me a lot with demos.
So FHIR adoption worldwide is moving at a rapid pace. We are seeing governments around the world actually adopt FHIR, and the tooling is missing, right? Like, so we have the standards, we have the specs, but then developers really don't know how to deal with FHIR, what tools to use, how to do that. So Vanya really helps bridge the gap. So this is an example of an application that was built by a developer who was facing the same challenges. And then Darren just decided to go ahead and build the Vanya viewer. And now it's free, anyone can use it. And it helps a lot of developers every day.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing some better tools coming out there for developers as well in FHIR. I think it's a space that's not well served, and we could do with a lot more there. So looking forward to see what's coming there as well.
So I think in general, the FHIR community and health IT in general is quite small. So if you have the capability and if you have the skill set, you can use what we've learned in this chapter and the previous chapters, and maybe you can build your own Vanya. Do let me know if you are interested in building something together. We always have a contact button right there. So do reach out if you just want to say hi. And yeah, I'm really hoping to see what you are able to build. And if one day you build something like the Vanya viewer, hit me up. I'll maybe do your interview. If you like this and want to learn more about FHIR, we just put out a whole course on FHIR fundamentals, and there is a full module dedicated to just what is FHIR and the basics around it. Just check it out at medblocks.com/l/FHIRfun. And it's completely free. You can just go to the link and check it out.